Okay, in this tutorial we're going to be looking at setting up a camera sequence in UDK and exporting that as a video. So the first thing we need is an actual scene to work from. We could use this scene here, but it would be nice to use something a bit more aesthetically pleasing. So what I want you to do is go to File, Open, and browse to the UDK folder and go to Content, Maps, and then Mobile, and just open Epic Citadel. So the reason I picked this is just because it is for a mobile game, so there's not too much complex going on, but it's got some nice kind of aesthetically pleasing visuals for us to create our first camera sequence. Okay, so the first thing to do is to actually bring in a camera. So if you open your content browser, go to Actor Classes and select Camera Actor, and if you right click in the view, and you can put Add Camera Actor. Now notice how the camera hasn't appeared on mine. That's because I'm in game mode. I'll just turn that off, and you can see now my camera asset is now visible. Okay, so to actually view through a camera in a scene, if you go select this eyeball icon and then click on the camera, I'm now looking through the camera, and if I move around in my view, I'm actually moving that camera asset. Just to show you, if I now click off this and zoom out, you can see the camera's now moved to there. And select it again, so click that first and then click on the camera to go back to the view. Okay, so what we want to do first is open Unreal Kismet. You see we've got a whole bunch of stuff in there that's used in this actual level. We're going to ignore all that and just make a new matinee scene. If you just right click anywhere in the grey space and go to New Matinee. Now we don't really need to do any scripting for this, you'll be pleased to hear. So that's pretty much it for Matinee. If you just double click in the grey area, you'll open the Matinee tool, and you can basically use this to animate objects in UDK. Obviously in this case we're going to be animating the camera. So what you want to do first then is select the camera, and if you right click in this grey area here, we can go to Add New Camera Group. And that's basically just going to add this camera here so we can animate it using this timeline. So I call this Cam 1 Step. This is going to be an establishing shot. And you can see what we've got here now. We've got our camera 1 in the scene here. If you click this little camera tab, that will actually make Matinee look through the camera, so we know we're on the right camera here. And now you see I've got a movement tab for animating the movement of the camera, and I've got a field of view for animating the lens of the camera. Now this is our timeline area. This gives us shows us the length of our animation. So you can increase that just by, if you roll out on the rollable, you'll see I've got a number of kind of arrow tabs here. Now the orange ones refer to the length of this actual sequence, so if I drag that out now we'll have an 8-second long sequence. I can use left mouse button to roll in and out as well, and I can use the left mouse button to just pan from side to side through the timeline. So if I select this orange tab, I'm going to wind it on, let's just say 10 seconds for now. Now this green bar one here, this is also important because this defines what UDK is going to output. So when we create our movie, you'll want to make sure that this covers the duration of that movie. So for now, let's keep them all together. So if I select my movement track here, you see I've got a red triangle here, and that's a keyframe. So that's basically saying that wherever this is positioned, define that as a keyframe point. You'll see if you select it, it actually says adjust key movement down here and goes red here, and that means wherever you move the camera, that's going to be the new position for that keyframe. So if we wind on till the end of our animation, well, in fact no, we're going to go half, so we'll go to 5 seconds and just hit the enter key. You'll see it create another keyframe, and you can see it says key movement 1, so we know we're on that. We're affecting that keyframe. So I'm just going to move this round to get a view of this, say to about there. So if I now wind back, well, if you wind back your animation, then hit the play tab, you can see the shot now moving. And I want to actually edit this start frame, so I can select that keyframe. Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit, dolly out a little bit, move it to there, and then if I select this keyframe, I can do another frame there. So now I've got that slight rotation. Now obviously one thing to consider with this is a large scene, so I want to make sure I've got a nice slow camera. Just to show you what I mean, if you select a keyframe and hold control and drag it to say 3 seconds and play this, you'll notice you lose a lot of the sense of scale if you use a fast camera, so getting the motion of your camera right is very important. In fact, if I hold control I can move it. I'm just going to move this onto 6 seconds. Also, if you right click and go set time, you can actually just do this precisely, so 6 seconds dead on. That's already on 0. So let's play that again. Now one more thing you'll notice is the camera actually starts off slowly and then speeds up. Now if you want to have it so that it's a constant speed from A to B, if you right click and go to interpret mode and select linear on both of them, you'll see now I have a constant speed to that camera. Okay, so that's the first camera setup. Now we need to set up the second camera. So I'm just going to unlock that, move around, there's my camera there. And I'm just going to come down to this archway here, right click and do add camera actor, and again remember to do lock selected actors to camera, click the camera, and I'm going to rotate it around. So we're going to make it so this camera actually arches up over this wall and comes back down here. So with the camera, make sure your camera is selected. Easy to do, just zoom out and just select the camera, and then right click and go add new camera group. I'm going to call this cam 2 stab shot. I'll just call it the stab again. Okay, so now I want to make sure that this camera starts after this camera. So I'm going to go to this keyframe and I'm going to select the first keyframe that it's given me. I'm going to drag that along to here. And if I right click I can always do set time, set that to 6. Now I'm going to want this to probably last a bit longer, so I'm going to put this on to 12 seconds. So I need a keyframe dead in the middle here, so I'm going to hit return to input a keyframe, right click, set time and put that on 9 seconds. And you can see I'm on key movement 1 here, so if I go to my camera view, oops, I didn't on the right one there. select my camera view here, select the keyframe, key movement 1, and then go up here to the top of the buildings. Just going to look down that street, and then I'll move the timer onto the end to enter again. Oops. Can be a bit fiddly, this, as you can tell. So go back into my camera view and move down to my end frame. See, I want to avoid that cut off point there. So maybe say down to there. Okay, so let's preview that camera. So turn on camera mode there and hit play. Okay, so it hasn't liked this last keyframe, so I'm just going to delete that and then hit enter again. You can see it's on key movement 2, and I'll just move this back to here. Go for around there. Okay, that should now play. We'll just hit play. And we've got our motion. So another thing to mess around with, if we right click on interpret mode, you can see we've got other things other than linear. So let's try curve auto here, and we'll put curve auto on these two as well. Wind this back and hit play. So you can see it's actually speeding up and slowing down at the end. Now obviously you may not want that, for example, because we've set our first camera to be linear, so you may want all your other cameras to be linear, but for just so that you follow some kind of convention. But for this demo I'm just going to kind of leave those as is. Okay, so we've got two camera animations now, but how do we actually view, put them all into one sequence? Well, to do that, if you right click in the grey space and go add new director group, there's our director group. Now basically a director group allows you to link together multiple cameras. So it's quite easy to set up. Again, you use keyframes. If we start on frame 0 and just hit enter, you'll get this menu here. Now this is basically telling the director which camera to look through. So if I select cam 1 stub there, we know we want that camera first. Then wind this on to when the camera actually ends. And if I hit enter to add another keyframe, on that point we want to switch to camera 2. And now if I wind on to the very end, add another keyframe, and we'll put camera 2 again. Okay, so you can see you need to set up a camera group for each camera you create, and then a director group to link them all together. Now making sure we're previewing the director group with this camera icon, we'll hit play, see how that looks. So straight away you can see those two cameras don't really go together because there's a lot of inconsistency in the speed. So let's just, really quick, just for the sake of this tutorial, we'll wind our render time on to say another 3 seconds. Oops. Select the keyframe, hold control, move it to there, and the same with that one. So try previewing that again. Okay, so that'll do for this demo. certainly not two cameras I'd specifically link together, but it will definitely do for this demo. So I'm just for the sake of completion, I'm going to set my time on each frame to be correct. Okay, so how do we actually output this sequence now we've done it? With our director track selected, expand this window out so you can see this icon here, create a movie. Now if I just select that, you can see I can select AVI or screenshots, and I can pick my resolution. Now it might seem like you'd want to do AVI, but actually in terms of being able to modify to be able to output with kind of titles on from Premiere, and for compression, the best thing we want is screenshots really. So we're going to do these at 1280 by 720. We'll keep the FPS at 30, and we'll just hit OK. And this should output a sequence for us. Obviously, the larger the resolution you have, the longer the sequence, the longer it will take to calculate it. I don't know why it brings up that Steam Community tab every time it outputs it. It's not on the actual images, it's just a bizarre glitch, one of those things you'll never explain. Okay, so once it's actually finished, if you go to your C drive, go to UDK, into the folder, blah blah blah, and then go to screenshots, you'll find each of your image frames here. Now, if you're wondering, how does it output them all, because believe me, this can be glitchy at times, unsurprisingly, all you need to do is say, I've got 15 seconds, and it's 30 frames a second, so what's 15 times 30? It's 450. So we've got 600 frames in here, and that's owing to an animation I output earlier, so just to avoid confusion, we're going to actually select all these and hit delete. Obviously I had to make sure this worked before I did a video tutorial of it, so that's why all these are already in here. If you output another movie, it will literally just keep adding on to the end. So if your first movie was 300 frames, it will start your next one at frame 301. Okay, so if we just hit this, and this time I'm going to do a lower resolution just for speed's sake, because basically what I want to show you is that normally the first time you output it, it won't do it properly, and the reason for that I think is just because it hasn't updated everything outside of the matinee, so you just need to shut down, save the level and then output it. But you never know. What is that? I don't know what about and guided tour. Okay, so we've output 150 frames here. Now obviously that isn't right, so it hasn't output the right amount of frames for us. We need 450, although it might have been because I actually started here. You need to make sure that this is slid on to the start point. So I'm going to select all those frames, delete all those again, come back to here, make sure my slider's on 0, and then hit create. So I want to access Steam Community and have a guided tour while I'm looking at while I'm outputting my camera sequence. Okay, so let's just have a quick check. And there we go, we've got our full sequence of frames now. Now, if you find that you do still have a problem, even after setting that to the start frame, then a good thing to do is to shut this down, see how it saves it, and then save as, I'll just say this is Epic Citadel 3, and then open Kismet and go on my Matinee. But again, I'm going to delete all these frames because I want to output at the full resolution this time. So full resolution on, turn off cinematic mode, blah blah blah, and just hit OK. Don't press anything, let UDK do its thing. Now, I haven't been given the offer, which is a shame. Okay, so we now have our frames all output. So I'm going to open Adobe Premiere in order to clump them together. Okay, so I'm going to go to New Project, and I'm going to save this as UDK Portfolio Video. And you want to make sure you're set to HD 720p and 30 frames a second. So we're matching our frame rate and image size of our outputted sequence. So I'm going to go to File, Import, browse to my frames and tick on numbered stills, and then just go to open. Then click and drag that into here. You can use this to make the timeline bigger. We can see it's output the video. You can see at the end it always seems to have this dodgy frame in there. So if you do have that, you can use the razor tool to cut that off. And the same at the start here. I'll just drag that down to my video 1 and delete those annoying glitch bits. Okay, so I've got my video now in here. And we've got a bit of a lens flare post effect going on. And the sky pops in. So again, you get that sky popping in thing going on. So if you wanted to, you might even want to razor off that little opening bit there too. Okay, so with our sequence output and then brought into Premiere, we can now obviously do things like, say, new title, in UDK, so on. So you spend time picking a font. It might actually suit the scene, but also be legible as well. You can tweak the size of your text here. You can set the framing of the text down here. And then you could do something like, bring that title in there. And obviously do usual things such as adding a dissolve and so on. And you might want to add a dissolve onto the actual video as well. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here a little bit. Now if you want to export this, we go to Export Media, and I've just got MPEG-2 selected here, but you'll find I'll kind of change that every year depending on what codecs are good, etc. So you'll find a tutorial on Moodle for the best kind of format to output. You want to just make sure your resolution and frame rate are set correctly. It's a bit powerful that. NTSC. And make sure you're outputting the whole sequence as well. Once you've done that, hit OK. And then hit Start Queue. Take a while to check Facebook while it renders. Okay, so we will preview that video real quick. And the quality could be better actually. Output better quality settings from Premiere. You can see you've now got a portfolio video. So all you need now is a portfolio work to use these camera tools on.